In the news this week, the Queen's speech outlines government anti-extremism plans. The BBC claims it is too Christian. And a Midwives leader faces an outcry for supporting an abortion campaign. Hello, and welcome to this week's news bulletin from the Christian Institute. Contentious plans to crack down on extremists will be consulted on. The Christian Institute and other groups have criticised the proposed Extremism Disruption Orders, or EDOs, because of the government's overly broad definition of extremism. It was announced in the Queen's speech that legislation would be introduced to tackle extremism in all its forms. The Christian Institute and other supporters of the Defend Free Speech campaign are still concerned that the new legislation will threaten freedom of expression.
Well, no one would be worried about the government's counter-extremism bill if there was a wide consensus about what extremism means. But what we've learned over recent months is that the Home Office itself admits it's having difficulty defining that. And the government keeps coming back round to this idea that an extremist is somebody who opposes British values. Well, what does that mean? And that's the problem. It's such an unfocused approach to extremism. And so the risk is that the range of people who get labelled extremists by their own government gets a lot wider. Nobody wants to see that. And so there's going to have to be a real big pushback to try and persuade the government to focus in on the truly dangerous people and to leave the rest of us to get on with enjoying our freedom of speech.
The BBC's head of religion and ethics has claimed that the broadcaster's output is too Christian and said more room should be made for content from other faiths. Akil Ahmed, a practicing Muslim, has compiled a report suggesting that Islam, as well as Hinduism and Sikhism, should get more airtime. The report is now being considered by Director General of the BBC, Lord Hall. Ahmed claimed that Christianity remains the cornerstone of religious output, above other faiths, but added that this output is not static. However, in recent years, the BBC's own employees have repeatedly drawn attention to the corporation's bias against Christianity. In 2012, former newsman Dennis Sewell provided evidence that the broadcaster is culturally biased against evangelical Christians. The same year, former head of the BBC, Mark Thompson, admitted that the broadcaster would never mock Mohammed like it mocks Jesus. And presenter Roger Bolton has said the BBC regards Christian views as lunatic. The head of the Royal College of Midwives has faced strong criticism after she pledged the union's support for a radical pro-abortion campaign. RCM Chief Executive Cathy Warwick is backing a push from Britain's largest single abortion provider, BPAS, to allow abortion up to birth for any reason. In addition to her RCM role, Warwick has been chairman of BPAS since 2014. Midwife Judith Smith said, "To have my own representative body coming out in support of this extreme view is very disappointing." Writing in the Daily Mail, commentator Isabel Oakeshott said BPAS's idea would have potentially terrible implications for both medics and women. Dr. Peter Saunders, Chief Executive of the Christian Medical Fellowship, said society is judged by the way it treats its most vulnerable members, such as unborn children. Dr. Saunders said Cathy Warwick needs to step down either from the RCM or BPAS, but cannot continue in both positions. The controversy comes as the latest figures from the Department of Health show that there were over 1,000 more abortions last year than in 2014. Figures for residents of England and Wales reveal there were 185,824 abortions in 2015, an increase of 1,253. According to the statistics, 70% of abortions were among women who are married or have a partner, up from 48% a decade ago. The number of women over 35 who had an abortion was the highest on record, at 29,471. They also show that more than 200 babies were aborted after the 24-week limit, most of these on the grounds of disability. Almost 700 babies were aborted because they had Down syndrome, and 11 because they had a cleft lip or palate. Pro-life charity Life said it was shocked that babies with disabilities are still being targeted and eliminated. Clara Watson from the group also said, "We are deeply saddened that there were 1,253 more abortions carried out on England and Wales residents in 2015 than in 2014. That's 1,253 more babies who are not given the chance to live." Well, that's all for this week. For regular updates and information on all of our stories, plus much more, visit our website at christian.org.uk. Until next time, goodbye.